Hey all, welcome back to the Law Read Slowly. So in the last session, we were discussing a couple of terms. We discussed what is the difference between cause of action, subject matter, title, matters in issue, and relief. We understood the difference by way of many examples. We will be continuing with the same discussion in this session because it's a very important area of CPC, and having clarity on the meaning of these terms is extremely important for a student of CPC because these are very basic foundational terms that you will encounter in every suit, in every discussion of CPC. So you need to be able to grasp their meaning without having to think about it, because it's very easy for a person to get confused between these terms because they have same kind of words that are being used across them. You have subject matter, you have matters and issue. A lot of people get confused as to which means what, and then in different kind of factual scenarios it will have different things, different elements will get uh, subscribed to each one of these terms. So if you have land, what will that land be? That land will be a subject matter. Then if you have a sale deed, what will that sale deed become? It will become a matter and issue. If you have the title, then what, how will you find out the title? You will find out the title by seeing what is the legal capacity of a party with respect to the subject matter. So you need to be very clear in your mind about these terms. We'll revise what these terms mean, and then we will move on to discuss some more examples. These examples will be a little more fact heavy than the ones that we did in the last session, because last session was about, you were experiencing these terms for the very first time. So we had to keep it in ABC kind of format, illustrations, so that you are able to grasp the import of these terms better. But now I believe you guys are equipped enough to be able to take it into comparatively more factual kind of examples, because in the real world, even these examples that we're going to discuss today, for comparison with the real world scenarios, you can say that these are very simple examples, because in the real world, suits don't think how easy it will be for the advocate or a student to decode them. They just happen. Disputes happen in the real world, and in the real world, you have hundreds of factors playing a part. So you have to sift through the set of facts that are presented to you in the real world, and then you should be able to figure out that what exactly is the subject matter of the suit, what exactly is the title of the party concerned, what exactly is the matter and issue in this suit, what relief is to be claimed, what cause of action do I have if I want to initiate this suit, what cause of action do I think the opposite party has when they file the suit, and whether they have mentioned that cause of action in their pleading, in their plaint or not. Once you become well equipped, once you become very comfortable with being able to figure all of this out, you will automatically start having fun with law. You'll be able to spot these things, and even as a young professional, you'll be able to debunk the opposite party's case much better when you yourself are capable enough to spot all of this in a suit, right? So we began with cause of action. Cause of action was something that we had discussed in the very beginning. We also closed the discussion on cause of action while we were discussing the topic of plaint. Cause of action, as we have discussed, is the cause for you to bring the action. What the action is? The action here is you filing the plaint, you filing the suit, you instituting the suit. So you need to specify what is the cause, what gives you the reason to file the suit, because you cannot approach the courts without reason, without a cause. And you must mention that cause in your pleadings. What will be your pleadings as somebody who is filing the suit? Plaint, because you're the plaintiff. Cause of action is made up of two elements. This should be very clear to you by now, but we are going to revisit these 4 5 words before we get into illustrations. It's like a refresher for you. Cause of action is constituted by what? You have a civil right, and that right was violated. So this right can be of any nature. We have seen this right can be with respect to a property. This right can be a personal right. This right can be your right to certain monetary sum, or it can be a contractual right. For example, right to employment. You have a contract of employment, you are an employee, your employer has signed that contract with you, which gives you the right to stay the employee and get paid for your employment. And that contract will contain a number of other rights also, like what? If your employer is giving you insurance, then that contract is giving you the right to get that employee life insurance or any other kinds of insurance. If that contract is giving you some sort of accommodation, then you should have the right to get that accommodation as that employee, basis of what? The contract. So all of these rights, these can be your civil rights. What other rights can you have? Right to peaceful possession, that you own a property and you should be able to peacefully live in that property. You should be able to peacefully enjoy that property. And then you have violation of all these different kinds of rights. How can these be violated? Maybe your employer kicked you out. Maybe there was a notice period clause in the contract of your employment, and the employer, without giving you any notice of the required period, just told you to pack up and leave the premises. Or somebody starts throwing garbage at your doorstep, so you're not able to enjoy your house property properly. You can't get out, you can't come inside because there's always that amount of garbage outside your house. Then what other things can happen that can violate your rights? If your right is a personal right, for example, to be able to worship in a temple, that right is being restricted because somebody is not allowing you to enter the temple. Or what? You can have to enter the temple. Or what? You can have all other kinds of rights. For example, you have a sum of money which you have lent to somebody, so you have a right to recover that money. Now that other person is violating that right of yours to recover that money. How? By refusing to give that money back to you. Or there can be contractual right. You contracted with a painter to paint your house. Now that right is being violated. How? The painter has breached the contract. Painter is saying, I will not come paint your house now, although in the contract we've already said that there is no choice for either of the parties to refuse to perform the contract. And this painter is now saying, I will not do it, so he's violating your contractual right. So you have a right, and there's a violation of that right. We are also discussed that in certain kinds of cause of actions, in certain laws, for example, your cause of action which you have to prove. So if you're filing a suit in a contractual right breach, then what kind of suit will you file? You will file a suit for specific performance, because it is a presumption of the law that when you are entering into a contract, you are entering into a contract because you want that contract to be performed. If I say that, oh, I am entering into a contract with you to get some work done from you, and if you don't do that work, then you have to pay me compensation. That is also written in the contract. But my intention will not be that, oh, I am only entering into this contract with him because I want him to breach the contract and then end up paying compensation to me. No, there's a section in Contract Act which we will discuss in Contract Act classes, which says that you enter into, which infers that you enter into a contract because you want to perform the contract. So law will always first strive that the parties are performing the contract. If they're not performing, then compensation, damages, all of that come into picture. But your primary intention for entering into a contract can't be that you want to get the compensation amount directly from the opposite party. So, point being, you have all these contractual rights, personal rights, monetary rights, pecuniary rights, also they are called, and you have property related rights. And when they're violated, you have a cause to file for enforcement of your right. And that cause of action is what is the cause of action that is spoken about in your CPC. If you don't mention it, then what can happen? Your plaint can get rejected under Order 7, Rule 11, Clause A. Understood? Then next term we picked up was subject matter. Subject matter is the thing with respect to which your suit has been filed. So this thing we have discussed can be a property, this thing can be money, this thing can be any personal right as well. So if I'm filing a suit for possession of a house, here what will be the subject matter of my suit? The house. Or you can also say the subject matter is the personal right of possession of the house. So thing is the thing with respect to which the suit has been filed becomes your subject matter. Then flowing from that, we went to the next term, which was title. What is title? Title is the legal capacity that you hold with respect to the subject matter. Because you just can't come to court with respect to an issue which does not concern you. Court will ask you, what is your title? What is your capacity? What is your involvement? What is your interest in this list? You need to have some sort of interest in that suit, in some sort of interest in filing that suit. You can't just, you can file PILs for all of that, but you can't file suits in a routine manner. So the court will ask you, what is your title? You have to tell them that I have the title of ownership with respect to the subject matter, or I have a possessory title with respect to the subject matter. We've discussed this in the last session, that you can have possessory title also, and then still you will have the right to file a suit with respect to that property. For example, you're the tenant. So while you are the tenant and some third person is trying to disturb your tenancy and your right to enjoy that property, then you can directly file a suit against that third person to injunct them, to stop them from doing whatever they are doing to disturb your right of possession, your right to enjoy the property. You can have managerial title also. For example, the owner lives in another city. You have been employed by the owner as a manager of the property. So, as a manager, you also have the right to protect the property by filing a suit against somebody else. In contract law, in agency chapter, you have a set of sections which are dealing with the situation when the agent has to file a suit to protect the interests of his principal. Then, how the relationship of agency plays out. We'll discuss it in the contract law classes. So all of that is there. You can have a possessory title as even as a bail in bailment also. You can have it if the property is a movable good. We discussed the example of a tailor, or you can also take a number of other examples. You're going for a trip abroad and you gave a sack of wheat that you had in your house which will rot. You gave it to your friend that please you take care of it, keep it in open air, and until I come back in like 3 to 4 days, just take care of it. Now, while that friend of mine, he has a wheat under what kind of contract? Bailment. That is bailment. So he has that sack of wheat, and he can do everything required to protect that wheat while it is in his possession. How will he do it? So if somebody else is trying to, spoil that wheat, so he can file a suit against that person. Somebody is trying to take it out of his possession, he can file a suit because he has a possessory title with respect to the property, the subject matter. The sack of wheat becomes a subject matter. So you have title. We discussed different kinds of titles can be there. Then from there we saw that how do you get a title? You get a title because there's a source, there's a legal step, there's a legal source which is giving you that title. You can't get title in thin air. You just can't sit here and claim that, oh, so and so property, I am the owner of it. No, it has to be, what has to be there to make you the owner? You either purchased that property from somebody, so now I am the owner, or I have been gifted that property by somebody, so that's why I'm the owner. So all of these sources which give you the title, different ways, different legal processes that give you the title, they are called your matters in issue, because that is what you will prove in the court to establish your title. Once you establish your title, look at it from the other side. So we are going from cause of action, subject matter, title, matters in issue. If I have to take you from bottoms up, how will I take you? I have a suit, I'm claiming a right. How will I get the right? Because I have a title. How will I, then I have to prove my title. How will I prove my title? By proving the matters in issue, that this is the source of my title. Once my title has been established, only then I can say that I have a right to this thing. Then my right will get established. Once my right has been established, that thing, subject matter has been established, that yes, this is the thing with respect to which I have a title. Now that is why I can say that I have a right to use this thing. So my right has been established. Now finally cause of action has to be established. How will I do it? First I've established my right by establishing my title, and my title to have that subject matter, and hence my right to have that subject matter. Now I will establish the violation of it by telling the court and proving in the court what the opposite party has done. So right, violation, cause of action. So I have matters in issue, I have which give me the title. That title is with respect to a subject matter. Then that subject matter gives me the right, and that right in relation with violation of that right creates my cause of action. So matters in issue are what? Matters in issue is the source of your title.